Hey, what's going on, guys? So I just got back from one of maybe the most important gaming related things I've ever gotten to personally go to. I've always watched these for like the last, gosh, maybe 6-7 years. I've even talked about it on the channel before, and that is Games Done Quick. If you don't know, Games Done Quick is a week-long speed running event where they raise all sorts of money for really good causes. In the past, there's been Doctors Without Borders, the Malala Fund with Frame Fatales. But this year it was the Prevent Cancer Foundation. And once again, it's something that I always try to support. In fact, one thing I get every single time since I've started watching it is some of the pins. The Yeti and Fangamer both put out a pin every year. The Yeti makes one for the event, Fangamer makes one for the finale. And also I buy the virtual attendee badge ever since they've started doing those, because going in person is really, you know, for a lot of people not an easy thing to do. So I've always bought these badges, and I always hang them off my Godzilla in my game room that has all of my convention badges. But this year I got to go for real, and here's my badge for attendee rather than virtual attendee 2025, because it was in Pittsburgh, which isn't close to me, but you know, it was, you know, a less than a 5-hour drive, I'll put it that way. I got to go support one of my really, really good friends, DBK'd. He lives in Japan. He's a speedrunner, but he flew in and he actually got to be on Agdq, so we went there to support him. I only got to go for basically 30 hours, which is a shame. Next year, I would like to go again and hopefully be there a little bit longer, especially for the finale, because it's always great. But this video, I really want to talk about the actual event itself. You know, as someone who's gone to a lot of game conventions, this is kind of game convention adjacent, but it's way, way different for many reasons. And I really want to talk about that with you guys. I really want to, you know, I know my channel isn't the biggest, but I also want to shed a light on this for the people who watch my show, just in case you didn't know about it. Because, I mean, it is such a great community. It's always for such a good cause. I really want to talk about it. So without further ado, let's talk about my very abbreviated trip to Agdq 2025. Before I get into the footage of the event, I did want to kind of show off my badge a little bit one more time, because you might have noticed this little ribbon on the bottom, and this is something that I really wish I got to do more of when I was there, but once again, I was only there for a day. It stinks. But basically, you got your badge. It's cool. It has your name on it. Next year, I'm probably gonna put my if I get to go next year, I'm probably gonna get to put my my actual channel name, Blips and Pips, because I didn't realize that was kind of the vibe. I put my actual name. But anyway, you notice this little blue ribbon. They have things you can do all over the convention hall, where you can do challenges and stuff and get these ribbons and kind of stick them on the bottom and make your badge grow longer and longer. One of them was an escape room. I saw many people, I guess there's different levels to it. I didn't get to check out the escape room much, which is another reason why I want to talk about it here, because I don't have any footage. But apparently there's different levels of it, and every time you got one, you added your ribbon longer. The one I got was from the GDQ Hotfix Gauntlet Challenge. This one was really cool for me for a couple reasons. One, I'm obviously a big fan of GDQ, but I also really like the hotfix content. I watch it all the time. I kind of have a thing where I need some sound when I go to bed. I don't know if you're like that or not, but I need some sound when I go to bed. So I'll go on YouTube and I follow Awesome Games Done Quick, or rather just Games Done Quick. And, you know, they have their hotfix content, which happens year round. While these events, you know, there's the AGDQ, SGDQ, which are both week-long events. They just changed their February event's name to Back to Black. That actually starts the beginning of next month. And also the Frost Fatales, which is kind of this female speed run event that happens in March. But in between all that kind of stuff and other events they do the hotfix shows, where a lot of the people who are the big part of the group have their own little shows. They're really cool, and I like to have them on in the background when I'm going to bed, throw on the sleep timer. But I got to meet the hotfix people, and they had this thing called the Hotfix Gauntlet Challenge. Now I say this is cool for two reasons, because one, I'm already a massive fan of the hotfix, but two, they were, I mean, they're just so cool. So basically the hotfix challenge was they had these little micro speed runs where you could sit down and play it, and you had a stamp card, and you would get 3 stamps a day for playing the 3 speed runs they had every day. They changed them out. You get a stamp for visiting a booth. I've obviously visited every booth, but the one they acknowledged me for was the Prevent Cancer Foundation booth, where I got a sticker for my water bottle. And they also had one for doing taking like a picture on social media and tagging them, which, you know, I had already done that before I even found their booth. But the cool thing was, I think you needed like 10 stamps or something, so really you had to be there multiple days. And I wasn't expecting, you know, anything, right? And I went up and I talked to them. I thanked them for making such great content that I love. And I told them, I was like, yeah, we're only here for a day. We're celebrating our friend who's running. We wanted to be here to support him, even though he's running at like 4 in the morning. And they were like, you know what? Hey, whatever. They just stamped my card all the way, because they're like, look, you're leaving, and they stamped my card, and I got this, and there's also a pin that I got, and if you guys watch my channel for any amount of time, you know that I have the big pin board outside, so added to my pin board along with other things. But this was a really cool thing. This badge, this was cool. Hopefully if I can go again in the future and I can go for a longer amount of time, I can get more ribbons, because some of these guys, man, their badges were like this long. It was so neat. But yeah, no, let's talk about the actual event. I keep wanting to say convention. It's not really a convention, but the event and all the cool stuff I got to see, because wow, watching it on Twitch and being there, it's so different, and it's like such a vibe being there. It's insane. So check out some of this footage, because man, this is so cool, so worth watching. I will say, driving into Pittsburgh was pretty cool. I mean, we got there at night, so we got to see all the lights on the bridges. I'd never been to Pittsburgh before, but you know, really any city to me is like a regular city. Like, cities are cities, they're all the same. But I mean, you know, if you're a city person, it's definitely a kind of a cool place to visit. Food's kind of, you know, like any city, you have to usually walk a good distance to, if you want something different. But if you're happy with Jimmy John's every day, you know, there's one right there near the main hotel. But then I got to go into the thing, and man, there's so much to see. So right here, I mean, this is kind of the practice room, but also like there's stuff, you know, you can play and game on here. It's really neat. There are like a lot of stickers, a lot of cool stuff to check out. You know, this is where people can practice for their runs or just play games. One thing I thought was really neat was on dang near almost every setup, they actually had a retro tank, at least the ones using actual like hardware, a retro tank that you could hook up to, or that they had hooked up. And you know, if you've been watching my channel for any amount of time, you know that I'm like a big fan of upscaling. So the fact that these were actually out here like to reduce lag, it really, I mean, it makes sense, right? Because like this is a speedrunning community. So the fact that you're trying to reduce lag really does make sense. But it's just cool to see that kind of stuff in this huge setup. Also, they have a big projector where you can see what's going on live on Twitch right then and there. Just a really neat thing, really cool kind of area to check things out, and you know, get ready for your run and just kind of enjoy your time. They also had a pretty sweet board game room where you could go check out board games and play with your friends. You know, for an event like this that lasts a whole week, you know, I did not have time to enjoy this space, but I can see myself really having a good time here. But one thing I did check out was their massive arcade room. I say arcade room, but I should say arcade rooms. They had 2. They had one which was a bunch of really slick Sega cabinets and a ton of pinball machines and all sorts of crazy stuff like that. And then they had another room that was like all rhythm games. I mean, like good stuff like DDR, stuff I'd never heard of. I mean, they had a bunch going on here. But another thing that I really wanted to point out, and you know, I don't know if this is the time or later on when I'm showing the actual main convention hall. I say convention hall, you know what I mean, is how clean everything was. This is going to sound really weird, and I'm not trying to badmouth any conventions I've ever been to, but when it comes to conventions, I mean, I'm a nerd. I think we can all agree there are some people, some places where hygiene seems to kind of take a back seat and it smells funky. I will say this is the craziest thing, because this is at a hotel, and let me preface this by saying this was not entirely hotel staff. I saw a large amount of Agdq people. In fact, every time I turn around, Agdq volunteers and staff like wearing masks, gloves, wiping down all the games, all of the stuff, like all of their stuff for sure. But also they would be going through and wiping down like just the railings in the actual hotel itself, like just cleaning the hotel itself, making it nice and clean and sanitary, just with a large amount of people, which I thought was crazy. Because I mean, like, you know, usually that would be like the hotel's job, but they took it upon themselves to really make sure that everything was very clean, very cleanly. It was awesome. But also they had this Agdq sign that you could sign on it. So obviously I had to take a little time to jump in here and put my name and blips and pips on there. Just to have. But you know, once again, these arcades and everything were super dope. Everything was super clean, and it was just like, it's hard to explain. It's really hard to explain because it's something I didn't expect it to be this like nice. Before I go into the actual like main event itself, I really wanted to showcase some of the neat stuff I got to do and see. I actually got to go to this Q&A for the Yeti. I even threw a couple questions out there. It was really fun. They were very, very nice. They had some really cool information and insight into Agdq and then just in general, like just, you know, the marketing of what they do. They make records and t-shirts and pins and vinyls. But another cool thing is, you know, I also got to see their booth. I bought a pin, like I always said, I buy their pins and stuff. And it was awesome. The shout out to the Yeti guys. They're super nice, super cool. And it was neat to be able to interact with them. They also had a ton of tournaments, and one thing I got to participate in was a like randomizer PS1 tournament where basically there was like 100 people, and you go through and they have brackets. You get signed up to go against someone, and they're all 2-player games, but they spin a massive wheel of like 100 and something games. You don't know what you're gonna get, but when you do land on your game, you and your opponent go against each other. I actually got 3 rounds in before I got beaten. But it was really cool. I mean, the first round, actually, I moved through because my opponent did not show up. Second round was a fighting game. I actually got Tobal number 1, which is a game I am semi-familiar with. And then I ended up getting a Puzzle Bobble game. And honestly, it was really close. Like, I won my opponent won the first round. I won the second round. And then on the third round, like, it was looking like I was just gonna devastate this person. I got a really lucky board, to be fair. I'm not a Puzzle Bobble person. But man, the thing that really sucks is like I got a huge setup which almost eliminated them, but it made it to where when they were able to kind of save themselves, it absolutely destroyed me, right? Because they just cleared the whole board because I gave them a whole board's worth of stuff to clear. But it was really cool, and that ended up moving on to an actual main GDQ showcase where the winners got to go play live on the stream. It's a shame that I wasn't part of that, but probably a good thing because I actually had to go home anyway. But it was a really cool thing, and they had way more tournaments than this. I mean, they had fighting game tournaments, all sorts of stuff. And, you know, so fun. They had something every day, something to look forward to, and it was definitely worth checking out. But now, like, the cool thing, I really wanted to show what it looks like on the backside, because I've only ever watched this on Twitch, but it does not do it justice. First off, they have everything is set up all in the same room. So they have the prize area, they have all the technical stuff, they have 2 setups for games, which, you know, that makes a lot of sense now that I'm actually there in person, where you have one on deck and the other ready to go. That's how they can switch so fast. But another thing is just how many people they have room for. They have like, you know, when you're watching the Twitch streams, you just see the immediate people right behind them, but there are a ton of seats, and most of the time, except for like the weird times we were there, they're completely full. And just because I had to know, I asked, hey, how many people registered to be here to get badges and be attendees? And they said right below 2,100 people. So that was insane. It was super cool to see this room, and it was really neat to experience the run. Lastly, I'm just going to show a little bit of DBCade's run. We're behind him. He was in something called the Awful Block, which shows basically like it showcases speedruns of classically bad games or games you never heard of. They're just really zany and weird. His game was this really, really long, I'm not even going to try to say the name. It's a really long, crazy game where basically you throw bombs at people. And he had this cool thing where we all were kind of his couch, even though we weren't directly behind him because he didn't have a commentator. But every time a lot of bombs would blow up, we would throw these bombs that we made out of just black balloons with string. It was really fun. Like I said, I'm not going to show too much here because this is GDQ's video, but I'll actually put a link to the actual video if you want to watch it. He's a great speedrunner, a great friend of mine, and it was really, really cool to see him and get to be there for him. But in a nutshell, that was my experience. You know, granted, I'm going to say this again, I only got to be there for like literally like 30 hours total, like getting into the city and then leaving the city. I wish I could have done more. Hopefully in the future I can do more, a bigger, better trip. But in general, it's so cool. They are such great people, such a good cause, such a great foundation. Check them out. I'm going to have links below. And then, you know, other than that, let's just wrap this back up. And hey, that's going to do it for me, guys. Once again, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for subscribing. You know, if you don't watch Games Done Quick or you don't know about it, check it out. I'm going to put their links down below. I'm also going to put some links for DBK down below. Like I say, he's a good friend of mine. He does speedrunning in Japan, so his timing might be different for some people as far as watching his content, but he's a cool guy. He's a really good friend of mine, and he was like really the driving force to get me off my butt to drive the good distance to go to this. I'm so glad I did. I wish I could have stayed longer. But yeah, I mean, if nothing else, it supports such a good cause. Even if it's something that doesn't interest you, that being speedrunning, it's worth looking into and maybe following them just to donate for stuff. I mean, it's just such a good cause. They have cool prizes and stuff too if you're in it for material things, if you happen to win. But once again, thanks GDQ for everything you guys do. Awesome Games Done Quick was amazing. I'm glad I got to go even if it was such a short trip, and I really look forward to hopefully being able to go in the future. And hey, that's going to do it for us today, guys. Once again, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for subscribing. If you haven't, please do. It'd be awesome. And hey, as always, my friends, take it easy.